All right, so it is the Wednesday before the ACT exam, so let's continue our discussion of what exactly you need to be doing, when you need to be doing those things, and what those things are going to be looking like from this day all the way until your exam on Saturday or Sunday on this coming week. So we discussed in the last video you want to start practicing, you want to start reviewing your past practice exams. So if you want to check that video out in terms of getting started, what those things look like, you can watch the video. I'll link it somewhere in a card up here as well. But just to continue here, I don't want to waste anyone's time if they've already seen that. So we're going to discuss how exactly you should continue your prep, what things you want to be reviewing, how exactly that's going to look like, and going to reiterate a few reminders that I think are important for a student that's in this phase. So first and foremost, you need to make a point to continue your practice, right? At the beginning of this series, you should have decided whether you want to do 2, 3, 4, or 1 practice exam for this course of this week. So I'm going to assume you're doing 2. Again, if you're doing 4, then just double it. It's fine. But if you did 2 practice exams for this specific week, then you should already have one of those done. Again, you could have split that up over 2 days if you want, but you have to have at least 1 practice exam done at this point of this week. And you should be taking the rest of those practice exams. So if tomorrow's Thursday and then on Friday, you can split them up over those 2 days so you can get that last bit of practice. And the whole point of the practice, again, is so that you can get used to the exam. You can start to look over your mistakes, see where you're at, see what you're scoring if you were to take the exam today. And also for you to review your mistakes, because that's the most important thing, right? You want to learn from your mistakes, not make the same mistakes again and again and again, and just get the same score again and again and again. And we'll come back to that again at the end of the video in terms of how you can prevent that from happening. You have to do a couple things to make sure that you're continuously progressing. And one of them is to review your mistakes, especially in English and math, and to assess your strategies. And that brings me to my second point for this specific video, is to assess where you're at on strategies. The way that you do that is by seeing, okay, what strategies did you use on those first 1 or 2 practice exams that you took the last couple days, if you did take some. If you haven't taken any, then you need to get started on that pretty soon so you can see what you're doing and how you're doing it. Like in terms of the strategies themselves on reading and science, mainly is what I'm talking about. For skimming, right? If you don't already have a winning strategy for skimming, you need to try different things and experiment so you can see what strategy works best for you. Like I've said many times, we have videos that go over this. There's one in particular where we talk about 5 different ways you can read on the reading section. You can apply the same principles to the science. So in that first practice exam, or the first 2 exams that you took over the last couple of days, if you did take them, then you should have experimented with a couple different strategies, or mainly experimented with one, so that you can see, does this work for me? Is this something that I can do and actually succeed with, or at least try to develop over the next couple of days, right? So if you did really well with it, if it went awesome, then great, continue that. We can keep hoping for more improvement there. If it didn't really work and you did not feel natural at all and it just was super hard and you failed, then you definitely want to switch it up. And again, what that's going to look like for you, there's different ways. So like, for example, maybe for you, like you're already scoring pretty high, like 30s, and you just need to get a couple more points. I don't know if doing a complete switchover at that point is really recommendable. So keep that in mind. Probably just want to tweak a couple things, or just keep practicing a bit more to see if your score goes up. But if you're in the scenario where you're like mid-20s and you want to improve a lot, and the method that you tried using from our videos just it kind of worked but it didn't, then maybe in your case you just want to just keep practicing a little bit more. The only case where I'll recommend you want to completely switch around and do like a 180 and change your approach, maybe from like reading in depth to skimming, or skimming to reading in depth, which I don't really recommend doing. But again, the only scenario where I would recommend that is something along the lines of if you just got started. If you just got started and just something just does not feel natural at all, then at this point it might be a bit too late to try to go towards that and try to really get used to it. So again, it's really a case-by-case scenario. If you have questions on this, then you can leave them in the comments below. We'll try to answer them and help you out. We respond pretty fast usually, or just bring it up in the cramming live stream that we'll be doing on Friday night right before your exam, so we can discuss this a little bit more. But in a general sense, usually just practicing a little bit more with the strategy works, or just tweaking a couple things. Like maybe if you felt like you were going a bit too slow or a bit too fast, then change your speed a little bit to make it a bit more natural. Again, it's not going to feel perfect because you're cramming, right? You don't have a ton of time to really practice these things and figure them out. But for reading science specifically, you need to just tweak things little by little. Whether it's, if you're going too slow, then try to go a little bit faster. If you're going too fast, then try to go a little bit slower so you can fit into that 2 to 3 minute time range. But again, it's going to be different for every student, and I can't really give you a broad enough answer that's going to really be helpful. So that's what I'd say there. Try to see where you're at. And in terms of timing, this applies for all sections. If you're struggling with timing, you just have to keep practicing for every section. That's the only way that you're going to get better at timing, because it's just a matter of getting used to it. If you feel like the 35 minutes on reading science is too fast, You just got to get used to it because that's not going to change. There's nothing you can do to change the 35 minutes. Of course, you can change your strategy. That's something that you can change. And again, how exactly you do that, we have videos and I've discussed how you figure that out. But yeah, like for timing, you have to keep practicing, and that's why the practice exams are so important. And that's why I recommend that. For English math, same thing. Timing it's just going to come down to how fast you can answer questions. So for timing for math, we've recommended different strategies, such as the one that we really like, which is the 20-40 strategy, where you take the first 20 minutes and you devote those to the first 30 questions, and the last 40 minutes to the last 30 questions. So that you're giving yourself more time for the questions that are at the end. Okay. Those are different ways that you can go by timing. That's one way that we like for math. We have more methods that we discuss in other videos. So again, for timing, just got to keep practicing. For reading science, when it comes to skimming and like developing a reading approach, you have to experiment and try to tweak things little by little by looking at our methods that we have in that one video and seeing what works for you. All right. You also have to assess where you are in terms of skills. So make it a point to continuously review your English and math mistakes when it comes to what questions you're getting wrong. So keep reviewing those. Like I would recommend going back to your past practice exams and reviewing them again if you notice that you're still getting a lot of things wrong, so you can at least keep learning from them. Because it's very easy for you to, maybe you reviewed things initially when you started this process. I'm talking about your past practice exams, and then you took this one that you just took maybe a couple days ago, and then you kind of just forgot about those mistakes and you made them again. So make it a point to, if you didn't perform really where you wanted to, keep reviewing the past stuff. Again, you can review it again, like over and again, so that you don't forget those mistakes. The way that you're going to keep making the same mistakes again and again is you forget that you made those mistakes, right? So keep reviewing them if you need to keep yourself from making that error and getting those kinds of questions wrong, because we all know, and I've said this many times, the question types on the ACT exam are going to repeat. That you're going to get the same type of English questions, the very same type of math questions, same type of reading stuff, same type of science stuff. And especially in English and math, if you're not getting familiar with those things, then it's going to be very hard to improve. So make it a point to review the things that you're struggling with in general, the whole exam. Review the questions you got wrong after each exam. And again, if you're really struggling with things, I would really emphasize, if you're doing this on your own and you're not really in a tutoring program or anything like that, then go over those things repeatedly so that you can continuously, see them and really ingrain those skills into your head. And obviously the main point of what I'm talking about right now is that you want to keep doing that for your current exams that you're taking this week. So don't neglect that, because that's the most updated evidence you have of where you're sitting, right? So make it a point to keep reviewing that stuff, because that's very important. All right, so that's how you assess where you're at in terms of skills. The last thing that I want to discuss is just a reminder of the last two things that I discussed in the last video. So again, don't waste practice exams. If you're taking too much practice in one day, you are wasting exams. You're also burning yourself out. So no more than one exam per day. If you've taken one exam, make it a point to just go over it. Like, learn from mistakes, try to assess where you're at. And if you feel, let me say this too, if you feel like you want to study just maybe one or two sections and not really the others, then in that case, just forget about the others. At this point, I think it's okay to just focus on reading and science, for example, if you need to, as opposed to just taking the English and math again and again and again and just scoring high on them. Because at this point, they're not really a priority. You need to figure out two sections that might be, or one or two sections that might be giving you more trouble than just continuously spending a ton of time on the sections that you're already fine on. So that's one thing you can keep in mind if you do want to get some extra practice in for a particular section or two. Another thing that I wanted to emphasize that I discussed in the last video was, do not, don't end up trying to do the same thing again and again and expecting different results. I touched on this before in the beginning of the video, I think, but if you find yourself kind of stuck, then you have to change things up. If it's a certain timing strategy you're trying to use and things are not working, then try to look at the strategies that we recommend in terms of timing, in terms of reading, skimming. I've mentioned this too many times already, but yeah, try to change things up if you feel kind of stuck. That's basically it in terms of the cramming study plan. So the things that you need to keep in mind for the next couple days: keep practicing, 1 to 2 exams at the very most, because you have 2 full days left at least. And then on top of that, make it a point to review your mistakes. And if you are really struggling with stuff, try to tweak your strategies a little bit, especially on reading and science when it comes to reading. And if you are struggling a bit with timing, then you just got to keep practicing that. And hopefully with a couple exams that you got left at the very most, then you will be able to figure those things out that you're struggling with. So I'm going to leave it at that. This video has gotten kind of long. Hopefully that was helpful, and we'll have another video coming out the night before the ACT exam that'll discuss the last minute things that you should be doing, how you can make sure that you're maintaining the same scores that you've gotten this past week for your exam the next day or the day after, whatever it is. So the last minute cramming guide is going to be coming out on Friday, and we'll also have a live stream so you can ask us questions that you have about certain strategies or how certain things work there as well. So I'll leave it at that. Best of luck practicing and prepping. We have 6 free practice exams linked below as well. That's the last thing I'll say, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.